evening, users. Tonight's story is called Mistress Monastery-Donor Who Broke into a Dance. The story is from Burmes Monk's Tales. In the village of Lone Palm Tree, there lived a widow who had built and donated 5 monasteries in memory of her late husband. She had installed an abbot in each monastery, but she was dissatisfied with them all, because she found their sermons dull and uninteresting. Each Sabbath day she held a great almsgiving ceremony, at the conclusion of which one of the abbots was invited to give a sermon. With tears in her eyes as she thought of her husband, she knelt before the assembled monks and listening ardently to the sermon. But always at the end she commented, "A poor sermon indeed. I despair of ever hearing a good sermon before I die." The abbots felt distressed at her remarks. They read and reread their scriptures. They practiced till their voices became hoarse. They tried and tried, but when the Sabbath day came round again, the monastery donor, the pious widow, remained as dissatisfied with their sermons as before. One evening a troop of strolling players arrived at the village, and took shelter for the night in the village rest-house. Some villagers dropped in to greet the players, and in the course of their conversation they mentioned that, although there were 5 abbots in the village, not one among them could give sermons to the monastery donor satisfactorily. One of the clowns in the troop inquired, "Are they not learned? Know they not their scriptures?" "They are learned, and they know their scriptures," explained the villagers. "The fault is in the tone and the style of delivery." Later in the evening the clown became drunk with toddy wine and wandered into one of the monasteries. Going straight to the abbot, he whispered, "My lord, you should sing your sermon to the tune tra-la-la-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la." The tune, my lord, is the dance tune of our troop and is very popular with all audiences. The following Sabbath day it happened that the particular abbot to whom the clown had taught the dance tune was chosen to give the sermon. At first he used his usual tone and style, but he became desperate when he noticed the monastery donor shaking her head in disappointment and dissatisfaction. So he sang out his words to the dance tune. The other abbots were startled, and the kneeling villagers looked up in horror, but a happy smile slowly appeared on the monastery donor's face. Thus encouraged, the abbot went on singing on his sermon until the monastery donor, in great ecstasy, stood up and danced. The end.